Hey YouTube, what is going on? Thank you for checking out the Straight SRT YouTube channel where we discuss all things SRT related. Today, pretty cool video for you guys. I went out and I rented a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited X. That is the 5.7 liter V8. Had the card here for you guys on the sticker. I want to compare this to an SRT. So as you all know, I own a black SRT. Absolutely love the car, but I was curious if I went the trim down from the SRT to the Limited X, how do they compare? How is the drive? How is the power? How is the sound system? Externally, from looks, how do they look? Are they different? And ultimately, your ultimate question, of course, is it worth upgrading? If you're torn between a Limited X and an SRT, which path do you go? Obviously, the SRT being quite a bit more expensive, but we'll get into creature comforts and what the other options are on an SRT versus the Limited X vehicle as well. But before I do that, let's get outside, do a quick walk around both cars. I have them side by side right now. My SRT is to my right, to your left, and you can see immediate differences. So let's get outside and check them out real quick, and then we'll go for a drive and I'll explain how they compare to each other. All right, so here we have the white 2020 Limited X. And then next to it is my black SRT. So let's do a quick comparison height-wise. You can see right off the bat that the Limited X is definitely taller in comparison to the SRT. Quite a bit higher, a couple inches taller than that. If you look over here at our wheels, similar size wheels on the SRT in comparison to the Limited X. Ride height, wheel height overall, similar, wheel size similar. And then we see immediate differences in the gap in the wheel well. You see right here, quite a big gap between the tire and the wheel well, much lower on the SRT. Now we know the SRTs come lower factory. I have not modified my suspension. This vehicle has not been modified either. So this is your true difference in ride height comparing an SRT to a Limited X. Body lines, very, very similar. And then backing out, there is the Jeep emblem that I removed on mine, which is in the same location. A small difference here, these rings much more pronounced and kind of jut out in the 2020s. This is 2017, so it's going to be a different year comparing year to year, so that's probably the difference you're noting right there. Other than that, they look the same headlights, very, very similar. Now let's go around to the back of the cars. Even the mirrors, similar design. In the back now, they look pretty similar. the SRT over here, of course, in black, even going from a 2017 to 2020, very similar body style. The difference being the bottom trim for your rear bumper on the bottom. Your exhaust outlets are a little bit different in comparison to these more rectangular outlets. I do have the Limited X running right now to keep it nice and cool for me because it is a nice and hot day down here in South Carolina. But a comparison, the of course 5.7 liter on the left and then the 6.4 on the right. So very, very, very similar even year to year and model to model. Not too much different between the SRT and the Limited X. So now that we're inside, let's do a quick comparison of the inside. So you have still full leather here, non-vented seats. They're heated but non-vented. It is perforated leather, but again, not vented. Steering wheel design similar. The overall diameter of this steering wheel is a little bit smaller on the Limited X versus the SRT. Other than that, very, very similar trim. Main difference being this isn't carbon fiber. This is a plastic, like a wood veneer, or not even a veneer, a wood imitation. Door panels being very similar. This has the normal sound system, whereas mine has the upgraded Harman Kardon 19, I believe, 19 speaker system. Dash on the inside, a little bit different. Mine has a recessed touchscreen. This is more pushed forward and it's a smooth display. This trim's a little bit different, but nothing drastically different. In terms of the display itself, mine has a fuel gauge and the temperature over there. RPMs are a little bit different on this one versus the other one, and then your main display is similar but just a little bit different. Passenger side, pretty much the same, again, beyond this difference in imitation there for the trim. The moonroof, you only have a sunroof, no moonroof. And then the back, very, very similar, same design again. but main difference being that the inserts in the seats are a little bit different in comparison. So let's hop on over to, in the back is quite a bit the same as well. But let's hop on over to the SRT quick. So here we are with the SRT door knob being open. We can see immediately difference in this carbon fiber trim now, which looks a little bit nicer. This door sill is a little more padded. The nice perforated leather there is a little bit different. Carbon sound system. You can see here you got a driver, another driver, another driver. Pulling on the inside, your steering wheel is a little bit different, much meatier, easier to grip. You've got that perforated leather. The entire dash is all leather, and then your side skirts here, or your side pillars, and your liner is all suede. So huge upgrade there. The seats, they do have, of course, the SRT in them. The design's a little bit different. These are much more padded on the sides. They offer way better grip in terms of acceleration and handling. And then again, similar design-ish for here for the perforated leather. Of course, this has vented and heated seats, not just heated. The dash design is pretty similar. Again, you have your hot and cold there and your fuel gauge, similar to the 2020 version. But then on the side here, instead of having RPMs, you have speed. So just a little bit different. RPMs being the main focus for the SRT trim versus MPH or miles per hour, and your speed being the main focus for the Limited X. The dash here, you can see immediately it's a little more recessed. I think the screen size is a little bit different. You can't really tell though. And then the RO design itself, everything looks great. Turn off that annoying beeping sound. Trim here, more silver with like a nice metal covering on the plastic. It's not actual metal, it's just quick covering on it. And then of course you have your selector. One thing I noticed is that this one has the option for Track and Sport. There is not even a sport mode on the Limited X. That's a little bit different to me. Other door, pretty similar. And then in the back, same exact seat design. This leather looks a little bit nicer to me. And the perforated leather looks a little bit nicer, a little more padded in comparison to the Limited X, but not a huge difference. And then of course you had this nice, let's just open this real quick. You have a full moonroof and sunroof, not just the sunroof. As you can see right here, it would normally end for the Limited X, and then it goes all the way back for the SRT. This is pretty cool. Makes a huge difference in driving. You get a lot more ambient, or ambiance, I should say. All right, let's get over to the Limited X, take it for a drive. All right, so now we are in the 2020 Limited X, taking it for a quick drive. Now I've already driven this car for over a week, so I have a pretty good idea of how it's going to drive and what I do or don't like about it, so I can give a pretty good comparison. I've owned the SRT for I think almost 5 years now, which reminds me I need to give you guys a new video for my 5th year update coming up. I just had one major issue with it, so I'll get into that in the 5th year update. But driving the Limited X, so some major differences right off the bat. So I've been a car guy almost my entire life until I bought the Jeep. This was my first SUV. Prior to that, nothing but sedans and coupes. So one immediate thing I noticed is that the SRT in auto mode, to me, drives like almost like a sedan. It drives nice and smooth. There's not a lot of body roll to it. Now, originally, the SRT came with your run flats, so they made it even more of a stiff ride. That way you got less body roll left to right, and as you're driving the vehicle. To me, did not like those run flats whatsoever. I thought they were quite dangerous, actually. So I decided to get rid of them. So now I have regular tires. But driving in auto mode, nice sedan feel. It's not very sloppy. It's nice and tight. You get a little body roll, nothing crazy. In comparison to the Limited X, this has way more body roll to it, like way more. Just moving the car side to side, the whole thing rocks. Now, of course, it's not surprising. We have a stiffer suspension in the SRT versus the Limited X, but definitely noticed a huge difference in drive quality based off of that. I prefer the SRT's auto mode. Get into auto modes. There is no option here for sport or track. You got sand, you've got snow, mud. Great for off-roading. Definitely not geared towards more of a thrill seekers in terms of on-the-road experience. That's a big difference. Now, the SRT, for a second, if you go back and put that in sport mode, you get that immediate stiffening of the suspension, and it drives much stiffer. To me, long-term use, not a huge fan of it. If I'm trekking the car, sport or trek mode obviously are much better, obviously minimizing that body roll. But for me, for a daily driver, when I just want to drive like a quote-unquote normal car, I love the SRT's auto mode in comparison to this mode I'm driving right now, which is its normal mode for the Limited X. So that's one main difference. If you like more of a smooth ride, if you like a little more bounce, if you go over bumps, the car kind of takes longer to level out. If you like, I don't want to say if you like body roll, but if you enjoy a smoother ride, that you feel less bumps in the road, then this is more geared towards you than going for the SRT. But if you want that sedan feel in an SUV, 100% go with the SRT. Now, get into the engine. Obviously, it's a 5.7 versus a 6.4, right? It's a big difference in engine size. The acceleration is quite a bit different, of course. On this one, the transmission, I think it's the same transmission, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the same transmission. This one, there is no option for eco mode. So in the SRTs, there's an eco mode button, which means your car starts off in second gear. It doesn't quite rev as high, you know, blah, blah, blah. This one doesn't have that option. So you're in first gear immediately, and then bam, second gear, bam, third gear, and that takes a little bit longer to change gears. But what I noticed is that when you give it a lot of gas, it's not overly impressive. For being a 5.7 liter V8, you would think it's a little more impressive, but it's not overly impressive in terms of acceleration. Going, of course, from the SRT. So if you're wondering, you know, the engine's 5.7 versus 6.4, does it really matter? Yeah, it absolutely matters. The other thing worth noting is that when you floor it, like I went from first to fourth gear straight in wide open throttle, it took a very long time to go to 5th, 6th, 7th, and then 8th. And kind of held it at 4th, and then as soon as you let off the gas, the whole car kind of slows down, because now you're having your engine slow you down. And it took a little bit longer than I wanted for it to change gears in order to go to 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th to kind of drive normal. But what was nice is because it knew you floored it, if you went ahead and floored it again when you're in like 7th, it dropped right back down to where it was and pick up where it left off. So that was a very nice touch. So let me just, let's see, right now, let me just try and slow the car down a little bit. Let's do a quick acceleration. I'll do a brake launch and see what we got here. I mean, it pulls harder from 4,000 RPMs to like 6 for sure. That's where your power band's going to be. And the exhaust makes quite a bit of noise. Going from 0 to 3,000 RPMs, you know, not much. Going from 4 to 6 definitely makes a lot more noise for the exhaust. I was bracing myself for like getting thrown in my seat. It didn't happen. Definitely a huge difference in experience going from an SRT to the Limited X. That initial launch is much softer. Now I did do a brake launch, it's not an actual launch, and the car did all right. I gotta pull up the difference in times from 0 to 60 for the SRT versus the Limited X. It felt drastically different though. Alright, so we covered suspension, we covered acceleration, talked about the engine, talked about how the car drives. Let's get into creature comforts. So screen size similar, again, it has the heated seats, doesn't have vented seats. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but down here in South Carolina, it's 90 some degrees right now. And I have the AC blowing, but it hits you way differently when you have vented seats. So right now, sitting in a black car, it was out in the sun, so the seat's very hot. So I have a very hot seat touching my back and touching my butt and my legs, and they're quite toasty. On the front end though, I have nice cold AC blowing at me. And one main difference is that even with the AC cranked up, I still feel hot because my back is still sweating and my legs are still nice and warm too. Now, when you have the SRT in that vented mode for the seats, it doesn't actually blow AC up the seat. It has AC under the seat, and there's a fan there just blowing the cold air up through the seat. So they're considered vented seats, not AC seats. But that makes a big difference. You actually feel it. I actually prefer the SRT to have vented seats in the low speed mode versus high speed. In high speed, you get more of an air rush, but you really can't feel it, and the temperature of the air isn't much colder. In low speed, you actually feel AC coming up through the seat, and it makes a huge difference to me. So in the SRT, I cool down a lot faster. So if you're in more of a higher climate, higher temperature area, you're gonna much prefer the SRT's vented seats over the Limited X's non-vented seats. And that's not for SRTs versus Limited X's, that's just a general comment. Definite difference in the comfort quality. You cool down a lot faster with the vented seats. Now, of course, when you get into heated seats, it doesn't really matter, right? This has heated seats, SRT has heated seats. If you're living in more of a colder climate, it's not gonna matter. You're gonna have the same experience. You're gonna heat it from the back and heat it from the front. But I mean, right now I've been driving for 10 minutes or so, and I have the AC on 3. I don't want to make it too loud for you guys, but definitely cools down a real lot faster with the SRT versus the Limited X. So now let's get into the sound. You've got your base sound system, which is I think your factory option, versus your more premium option, your most premium option with the Harman Kardon sound system. So are there differences? Absolutely. Are they phenomenal differences? No. So I have a pretty good sound system at home. I spend a lot of time tuning it and equalizing it to make sure I get the best sound possible. And the best sound comes from the best control. You want to have excellent control on your sound system. By that I mean you want to have tight bass. You don't want to have it ringing. You don't want to have it boomy. You want to hear whatever your artist wanted you to hear in the first place. You don't want to hear exaggerated or accentuated notes. So with this sound system, the bass is boomy. It's more boomy than it is in the SRT. Now the SRT already has boomy bass, which I'm not a big fan of. This is a little bit worse. Now because you only have a 3-band equalizer, it's basically impossible to get rid of that boominess, because you want to have good bass, especially for like hip hop, rap, R&B. You want good bass, but you don't want it to be overly boomy where you hear like just a general, and they call it boomy for a reason, a general like boom to the sound versus being a crisp, concise, and clear. This is more boomy. The sound too, the sound system with the SRT, the Harman Kardon upgraded package, you have more of a surround sound system to it, because when you have smaller drivers and you have less of them, you hear music here, you hear music here, you don't hear music here. Or you may hear it here, you may hear it here, you're not going to hear it right here. So you want to have like almost like a wall of sound surrounding you, and you're not going to get that with this base package. Now, is it comparable to other offerings? Absolutely. It's not like it's worse or that much better than any other stock sound system. It's definitely comparable. It will bump. If you turn the bass up, it's definitely going to bump. So it's going to sound, I guess to untrained ears, it'll sound like it's got a lot of bass to it, and it does, but it's not refined bass. So I would recommend getting the upgrade package. Now, what you could also do is just turn the bass to minimal and get a subwoofer. I still recommend getting the subwoofer with the SRT because you get better control over the bass. The SRT, there's no option for adjusting gain for the subwoofer. There's no option for changing your crossover point for the subwoofer. I mean, you adjust it basically through the bass configuration in your head unit, which is unfortunate. So if you get a subwoofer for this car, huge upgrade over the current sound system. It'll run you a pretty penny. I do the video in my I forget what it's called. I think it's actually it's the audio. I think it's a knowledge drop audio video. It gets into how to install a subwoofer or where to buy the parts from at least. So that's the difference in the audio quality. What else do we got? Talked about riding, suspension, transmission, sound, creature comforts. The only difference being that you have a sunroof versus a full-blown moonroof. The ambiance is definitely different inside the car. And what I mean by that is when you have the full moonroof, you get a lot more natural light in the car. And so you almost feel like you're driving a convertible without all the wind noise. Driving this one, this is definitely a huge added bonus, having the sunroof, but you're definitely missing that in the back end of the car. It's much darker back there, which means it'll be much cooler. But with that moonroof in there, that's a lot more natural light. You feel like the car is more spacious, more opened up, versus being more confined by having that optional moonroof there. Now, it may be an option for a Limited X. I'm not 100% sure, but that's your main benefit, of course. Other than that, those are really the main comparisons. Now let's get into which is right for you and which one do I prefer. So I still prefer the SRT. Now the question is, this car was at I think it was 50,000 inside on the sticker, and I think mine was in the 80s. So an extra $30,000, or a little more than 1.5 times the cost of this car. Is it worth it? That's a hard question. I would say yes, because if I owned this vehicle, I wouldn't like it personally. I don't like the way the transmission acts. It's definitely tuned differently. I don't like the way the engine isn't as robust or powerful as my engine is in the SRT. And the biggest thing for me is the ride. Much too much body roll in this vehicle. I mean, the steering's not sloppy, but there's a lot less feedback in comparison to the SRT. SRT, more feedback, more precise. This one, I mean, the steering wheel, I can twist it back and forth and get a good amount of slop out of it before the vehicle starts doing anything. And I'm not a huge fan of that. It's less precise. It's not a racing vehicle, right? It's just it's a general SUV. So for me, if I test drove this car, I wouldn't get past the test driving phase, because it's not what I want. I wanted, before I bought my SRT, I had a sports car and I had a sedan. I wanted to merge the two. I wanted to have a high performance daily driver, and that's what the SRT is. This is not that. It's also not sold to you as that. But you may think, oh, it's a limited X, it's got decent sized engine, it's going to be very comparable. No, not really. So to me, the SRT is worth the money. It's a lot more money for the vehicle, but if you want a high performance daily driver, 100% go the SRT route. Now, for more than that, you have the Trackhawk. Now, I've never been in or driven a Trackhawk. My goal is to get in one for the channel and compare the Trackhawk to the SRT, but not quite there yet. They're pretty expensive. But I would definitely recommend, if you want that more sedan, more performance-based feel, go ahead and upgrade your SRT. Now, you could argue that you could put money into your Limited X. Maybe you can do a headers, you can do an exhaust, you can do a tune, you can do a cold air intake. You can do all these different things. I'm still willing to bet that even with those upgrades, it's not going to touch an SRT. Even if you did cams, I'm still thinking your stock SRT is going to be a much better option for you. And again, now if you're in an SRT and you're thinking, oh, you know, it drives great, I want more power, I recommend going the Trackhawk route, because once you upgrade your SRT out into the price of cams, tuning, exhaust, I mean, you name it, right? You're going to get more power out of an SRT out of a Trackhawk for a little more money, and you get a warranty, and you get beefier suspension, transmission, differentials, transfer case. I mean, it's already upgraded for you. And then when you get the Trackhawk, you can go ahead and do your pulley change like everyone does with the injectors, you get extra bit of horsepower out of it, and do mods here and there and change your 700, 800, or push 900 horsepower on it, which you're never going to get out of an SRT, right? Because the SRT, if you put a blower on there, or a supercharger or turbo, it can't manage much power with the stock engine. So you're going to need to upgrade that engine to handle more power, and at that point, your cost already exceeds the cost of getting a Trackhawk in the first place. So that's my comparison. Looking at whether you want to buy a Trackhawk, you want to buy an SRT, or you want to buy a Limited X. If I had the money, I would go buy a Trackhawk personally, but they're pretty expensive. So that's kind of my quick breakdown. If you guys have questions, as always, go ahead and drop them below. I'm going to do another video, a quick teaser coming up on doing audio. I have a pretty awesome video right now going through my knowledge drop series for audio, but it's very long. It's kind of like a college course, which I want to make it more fun, more engaging, and shorter, so that'll be dropping pretty soon too. So other than that, thanks for checking out the video, and I'll talk to you guys